Did you guys know that when this song came out, Beyonce gave an interview to Vanity Fair. She said it was really tough to write this song. She let Columbia listen to the song. She had written #1 hits for Destiny's Child, but she was just like, I don't have a #1 hit for this album yet, for my first solo album. And so after this interview came out where she talked about how hard it was to write, there was this huge backlash of people doubting whether or not she wrote this song. Can you believe it? Yeah. So there is a way that we've used with historical documents to determine the true authorship of something, because sometimes somebody will claim they've written it and somebody else actually did the writing. So one of the ways that we've used historically to figure out who the true author is, people tend to be pretty consistent, document to document, with their average word length choice. Like people that tend to use short words for all their stuff. And some people like these big, long, huge words, and that's what they use in almost everything that they write. But this tends to be pretty consistent overall. So we are going to determine today whether or not Beyonce actually wrote this song. On page 5, in your notes packets, I have every single word to Crazy in Love written out. I want you to randomly circle 5 words there. I want you to do it before the end of the song. 5 random words on page 5 in your notes packet. Get them circled up before the end of the song. So page 5, circle 5 words for me. All right. If you have your 5 words picked out, I want you to flip over to page 3 and write them down underneath #1. So write your words right here. And now I got to pause this so it doesn't keep going. There we go. And I'm going to pick on somebody just so that I can demonstrate what I want you to do. Abby, what 5 words did you pick out?
Crazy. Quietly.
Sorry.
Impress.
Impress.
Yeah.
IMPRESS. I'm horrible at spelling. Understand. And what was your last word?
Foolish.
Foolish? Oh, come on. All right. Deborah, what I want you to do when you get to your seat, I want you to turn to page 5 in your new notes packet and randomly circle 5 words from the song Crazy in Love and write them down. All right, we're going to determine the average length of the sample of 5 words that you took. So above each word, I want you to write down how many letters are in that word. So crazy has 5 letters. Quietly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 letters. Impress also has 7 letters. Understand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 letters. And foolish, again with 7 letters. After you have figured out how many letters there are in each of these words, we want the average. How are we going to average this? Add all those letter counts together, and then we're going to divide by 5, because we picked out 5 words. So I want you guys to do that. Add up all the letters, and then divide by 5. I want you to write your average down here for #2. And then I want you to come and see me. You're going to get a red dot sticker. And you're going to add it to this poster over here. Wherever your average falls on that number line, there's probably already going to be a dot somewhere near where you need to put yours. Just put yours above theirs, like we're making a dot plot or a histogram. Right? So once you have your average, come and see me. 5, 6, 7, 8.
See, I saw a harp coming.
14. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Squeeze through here to answer the question. Yes. 5, 2, 3, 4, and 2 should have circle across. You're going to take those 5 words, you're going to write them down on page 3, and you're going to figure out how many letters in each of those words, and then you're going to get your average. And then you'll put a dot on the dot plot. All right, I want to give this dot plot copied into your notes. We want to get this dot plot copied down into your notes. All right, so let's see if I can actually do this here. So we got like 2 here, about 4 here, 4 here, 2, 4, 4 here right at 5, 6 here, 5 there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6 there, and then 3, 2, 1, and 1. All right. Don't go on top of anybody else's dot. You have to go above. Nope, go above. Right up here. That's okay. So, oops. We've got 1 more dot right here. So that went on the 5-ish. And I know I'm kind of ballparking this. We're going to do a second sample of 5 words now. To pick out this second sample of 5 words, we need to find some random numbers. So you're going to need 2 different things. One is easy. We're going to flip to page 6 for this. And you're also going to need a graphing calculator. You can use the app on the phone, or you can go back and use one of my calculators in the back. Page 6 in your notes. You're on page 4. And you need a graphing calculator. Let's grab the yellow ones in the back, if you don't already have one. All right. What's on page 6? Words with numbers next to them. Look at the words. Read just the words. This is the lyrics to the song, where every single word in the song has been given a number. First word is number 1, second word is number 2, third word is number 3. Yes, sir. Huh? No, don't count the parentheses. Good question. All right. So what we're going to do for this one, we need to pick out a random sample that's not just random like we chose. So I'm going to show you. Calculator is going to pick out our random numbers for us. All right, so follow along with me, whether you're on the app or a yellow calculator in the back. You're going to push math which is right here underneath the alpha key. Once you push that number, or those letters, math, you're going to arrow over until you get to PROB, or it might just be PRB, depending on the calculator. That stands for probability. We want it to choose some random numbers for us, but do we want it to choose decimals? We want whole numbers, so we're going to choose option number 5 where it says rand int. That's random integer, whole numbers. So I'm going to push number 5. I'm not going to have you do it for real right now. I'm going to show you how to do it, and then we'll walk through how to do it for real. The lowest number that I want it to choose from is 1. If you have one of the big fat yellow calculators, you're going to have to, it's opened up parentheses. You'll put the number 1 in there and then a comma. Since this is just an example of me showing you how to do it, let's tell it to pick a number between 1 and 10. So I'm going to put 10 in here for my upper boundary. And just for right now, I want it to pick out one number. So I'm going to put a 1 right here. Again, if you're on the fat yellow calculators, you'll have these same numbers but separated by commas. When I paste it in, it should look just like the big fat yellow calculators now. And then I'm going to hit enter. I got 10. Did anybody else get 10? You got 10? That doesn't seem very random if we both got 10, right? I mean, I suppose it's possible. In order to guarantee that each of us gets a unique set of 5 numbers, that you don't have the exact same 5 numbers as somebody else, we have to do what's called seeding the calculator. When these calculators are made at the factory, they are programmed with a list of random digits, which aren't actually all that random because they all get the exact same list. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell it a random place to start in that list so that it is as random as we can possibly make it. So you're going to start off by picking a number, any number. I'm going to put in my entire birthday to give it a number to start at. So I'm going to do 6/23/1980. We want this to be different than anybody else in the room. Pick your own unique number, birth date, favorite number, dog's birthday, a date you're looking forward to, whatever it happens to be. After you put that number in your calculator, we're going to hit this button here that says STO right above the on button. It should put an arrow there. And now I'm going to push math again. And I'm going to go over to probability again. And I'm going to choose option number 1. I want it to store it as a random number. So this is what I see on my screen right now. And then I'm going to hit enter. Now it's stored as a random number in my calculator. So far, so good? Okay. All this did was give it a random location, somewhere different than your neighbor, for it to start on its random list. Now we're going to get it to give us 5 random numbers. So we're going to do math and probability. We're going to do rand int, option number 5. I want it to go from 1 to what? How many words are there in the song? 297. So from 1 to 297. And I want to pick out how many numbers? I want 5. We circled up 5 words to begin with. I want it to pick 5 random numbers for me. Thank you. So I'm going to put 5 in here. Again, if you've got one of the big fat yellow calculators, you're going to put these numbers in, but with commas in between. And then close your parentheses. And then hit enter. And it should pick out 5 random numbers for you. I want you to go and find those numbers and circle the words next to those numbers on page 6. And then you're going to find the average all over again, just like you did when I told you to circle up 5 random words. here. Sometimes they're weird. I just did the same thing all over again and it decided to work. All right, so again, I want you to calculate the average. So find the number of letters in each of the new 5 words. Add them all up and divide by 5. Come see me for a green dot sticker, and you are going to add this to the green dot plot. You're welcome. Absolutely. Happy to help. We got 3 more. Still waiting on one person. I don't know who hasn't put their dot up yet. Any takers? Oh, got it. All right, and then just like before, we are going to cover. So let me see if I can get this down for us a little bit. We've got, way too small. Got 2 here, like that. 1 here, and then 2, and then a whole bunch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here. And then 1. And 1. And 1. And 1. And 1. And 1. Down a little lower. There we go. All right, so now I want to talk about these 2 dot plots that we just made. How would you describe the difference between the dot plot that we made in number 4, this one right here in green, and the dot plot that we made in number 3, the one that I had in red over there? What are the most noticeable differences? The number 3 is shorter. So number 3 is shorter. What else do you notice? It shifted. Shifted which way? To the left. So what did that do to my center then? Moved it left, moved it lower, right? Number 4 has shifted to the left. So it has a lower center. So I'm curious if we were going to describe these graphs. Do you guys remember when we described dot plots back in chapter 1? What do we use to describe dot plots? Shape, center, outliers, spread. Remember we used SOCS to talk about these? So let's look first at this one. If I asked you to ballpark where the center is on the red one, center looks like it's about where? Like 5.2, 5.25, somewhere in here. All right, let's go ahead and mark that. Here's my center at about 5.2. Does this graph look like it have any outliers? 7.1, so possible outlier here. I combined 5th period and 6th period's graph. Is it somebody in this class that put up the one that was near 7? How much was it exactly? 7.2. 7.2. So possible outlier at 7.2. Shape. How would you describe the overall shape of this? Roughly symmetric. So approximately symmetric. And I think there's only one thing that we haven't hit on. We talked about center, we talked about shape, we talked about outliers. What have we not talked about? Spread. What should I use to talk about spread here? Range. Definitely going to be easier than trying to put all of this in and find the IQR or standard deviation. My range would be about what? Going from 7.2 down to what, like 3.8? 7.2 minus 3. We'll call it 3.8-ish. You said it comes out to 3.4? Okay. .4. So our range is right about 3.4. This sample, I didn't tell you guys what this was called when we were doing it. This is called a convenience sample. Let's go look now at the other one. Let's talk about the same kinds of things here. Center, shape, spread. Where would you ballpark the center on this one? Like here-ish? Shift it more to the left, more to the right, or do you feel pretty comfortable with this one? It's good? Again, I'm just kind of like eyeballing what I think the center is about. So our center is about what? You said 3.45? Okay, sounds good. 3.45. I don't know. Sounds good. How would you describe the shape? Looks like it's skewed to the right, right? Skewed right. Any possible outliers? Yeah, like maybe these guys over here. Possible outliers. And then we need to talk about spread. So let's calculate the range again. Range is about, looks like we have the one that's right at 6 minus 2.2. So about 3.8. What would my range be if I excluded the things I was worried about being outliers? It's going to be smaller. Range without possible outliers. would be about what? Looks like about 3. Yeah, I'd ballpark it right around 3. So if I don't include the outliers, this one has a smaller range, right? If I asked you which one was more spread out, like overall, would it be this one or this one? Do you think this one is more spread out overall if I look at the location of all the dots? Just spread out. Like this one, I look at most of the data is right here, right? Like that's almost everything. That's all but 8 of the dots out of 45. This one, let's see, if I were to leave out 8 dots, like I'm in here-ish, right? This one looks like as a group looks more spread out. I would say this one probably has a higher standard deviation. I don't know what it is, but on average, the points are further away from that center than with my green one. The green one here, this is called a simple random sample. Or SRS for short. And if you use SRS on the AP exam, that is acceptable abbreviation. They will all understand what you mean by SRS. If I asked you to use one of these 2 graphs to be an estimator for the true average word length in Crazy in Love, which of these do you think would do a better job, the red one or the green one? Green. Okay, so we think the random number generator would do a better job. Why? Why do you think the green one would be better? What is it that is appealing to you about the green one versus the red one? Yes. I like that. Overall, which one of these tended to have higher averages? The red, right? I'm not saying that everybody's average came out to be higher on that one than the other one, but as a group, that's what we saw. I'm curious, when you guys were picking out your 5 random words at the beginning, when I said do this before the end of the song, did anybody pick out I? You did. That's rare. Anybody pick out me? The? Do those words occur pretty frequently? But we left those out. That's skewing our average towards the longer words. Humans are pattern-seeking creatures, and we are drawn to things that are novel or interesting. We tend to skip over words like the, a, and. It's just like, that's just background noise. But that all goes into figuring out what the average word length is. You have to include those as well. Give me your best guess for what the true average word length is for Crazy in Love. If we use the green graph here, what do you think the true average word length would be? I thought I heard somebody say something, but I couldn't quite make it out. Give me your best guess. I heard 3.5, 3.6. You guys okay if I write down 3.5? All right, I'm going to write down 3.5 just because that's the first one I heard. I could write down 3.6. That's whatever. we use the symbol mu to show the true population mean. And I bring that up because I'm going to tell you what mu is for this song. Because I get bored. No, I'm lying. I didn't calculate this, but a computer program calculated this for me. What the true average word length is for Crazy in Love. You guys ready for this? .53. I want to look at where that is on these two graphs. 3.53 would be right about here. So here's mu. Pretty close to what we picked out as the center of our green graph. But when I go to the convenience sample, 3.53 is over here. If all we had to go on was the red graph, the red dot plot, would you have guessed that the true average word length was 3.53? Absolutely not. When we have a situation like this, we say that it has high bias. You guys ever heard the word bias before? A lot of times in just common everyday language, bias and prejudice tend to get used in similar ways. When we're talking about statistics, bias means something very particular, and it does not mean the same thing as prejudice. Bias, in a statistics sense, means that we have systematically not done a good job of estimating the true thing that we're after, in this case, true word length. This has high bias because we consistently had averages that were higher than the true average. My simple random sample, on the other hand, has low bias. Why? If the other one had high bias, why would I say this one has low bias? Did it get pretty close? Yeah. The center of this got pretty close to the true average. This was a much better estimator. It didn't get it perfect. I didn't get 3.53 as my guess, but I got much, much closer with a low bias estimator. Yes? How do they get it perfect? So I literally fed this into a computer program where it counts up all of the letters. Like I typed it in without spaces in between so that it counted every single character without punctuation. And then I had it average there. Yeah. I did not type up page 6. I'm truly grateful to the person who did. You'll notice they're credited at the bottom because I don't have the time and energy to do that. All right. So now for my big question. We know for a fact that Beyonce wrote the lyrics for all of the Destiny's Child #1 hits. I don't know that she wrote all the lyrics for all the songs, but she wrote all the lyrics for like 7 or 8 #1 songs. The average word length for the Destiny's Child songs is 3.64 letters. Based on what we just did in here today, do we have convincing evidence that Beyonce did not write the lyrics for Crazy in Love? No. Why not? They're in the same ballpark, absolutely. The true average word length for Crazy in Love, 3.53 letters, is really close to the average word length for the Destiny's Child songs, 3.64 letters. They're not identical, but they're close enough that we say the difference between 3.53 and 3.64 is not statistically significant. It's not different enough that I'm going to walk away saying somebody else wrote this song. So while you guys are getting this down into your notes, I want to talk a little bit about the second purple packet that was over there for you to pick up in the wire basket. First purple packet was your new notes packet. Test is going to be Friday, October 4th, which is the Friday right before we go on fall break. If you know you're not going to be here then, you need to schedule a time with me to take it early because you don't want to try to hang on to that for 12 days and then come in and take it cold the Monday after we get back from break. The day before the test is Parent-Teacher Conference Day. That second purple packet is flashcards. We are going to be learning a ton of new vocabulary. We're going to be talking about different sampling techniques. I have just introduced you to 3 sampling techniques. Well, 2, and we're going to talk about the third one here. If you guys flip over to page 4 in your notes, we do sampling from a population. Why do you think we do sampling? Why didn't I just tell you guys to find the average word length in that song? Why did I have you take a sample instead? Yeah, it's quicker. Way too much work to do it all. We would have taken the whole class period just figuring that average. And we probably would have gotten different answers around the room because somebody would have put a number in wrong and then dividing by 297. Oh, I accidentally put in 296. Like, it's just going to take way too much time. We find this out in real-world situations as well. Going and getting information from the entire population that we're interested in takes a lot of time. And because people expect to be paid, it also takes a lot of money. We don't have access to that all the time. So we take samples from our population. One way of taking a sample we did was the convenience sample. This one gets picked sometimes because it's easy to reach. It's convenient for the researcher. They go with whatever's nearby. We talked about a simple random sample. This one was much better as an estimator. Another kind of sampling is called voluntary response sample. Anybody ever read reviews on Amazon or Yelp? Those are voluntary response samples. People choose whether or not to participate. Or if somebody's taking a survey, that would be a voluntary response sample. Convenient samples and voluntary response samples, we have to be really careful with. They can lead to bias. They can be bad estimators. Taking a simple random sample, these steps right here, super important that we get these down. To take a simple random sample, you have to label all of the individuals. You either have to assign numbers to each of them, like I did or I found somebody had done on page 6, or you got to write every individual on a little slip of paper. I could have written every single word on a little piece of paper and crumpled it up and put it in a bag. So the first thing you have to do is you have to have all the individuals, they all have to get labeled in some way. Then you have to randomize. Remember, we want this to be a random sample. So you have to randomize that. We used a random number generator, and we specifically wanted it to have no repeats. You have to say that. We can't use the same word twice. So I don't want the same number to show up twice. Or I could take all my little slips of paper and put them in a hat or a bag and mix them around. It's really important that I do that mixing, because if I don't do that, all of the words at the end are going to be on top, and then I'm going to be selecting mostly from the words at the end of the song instead of reaching down into the bottom. And then you select your sample from there, however many you wanted. We wanted 5. I will be asking you how to take a random sample. This has come up every year for the last 5 years that I've seen on the AP exam. They ask, how should you pick a random sample here? So knowing this process is going to be really important. With our last couple of minutes, I want to go down and do the check your understanding here. We're going to do this together today because of time. A sign at a local business says, rate us with 5 stars on Google and get a $10 gift card. The store manager uses the ratings to learn how people in the community feel about the business. What kind of sample is this? Voluntary response sample. It took volunteers. He took volunteers. Why is it bias? What'd you say? They're offering a reward. Do you think people might be motivated by the reward and not give honest answers? Absolutely. Those people who volunteered to respond were likely motivated to give 5 stars so they could get their hands on the gift card. The manager went ahead with this plan anyway, found that 92% of customers rated the store with 5 stars. Do you think 92% is likely to be greater than or less than the true percentage of how people in the community feel about this business? Why? I heard bias. What do you mean by bias? Who tends to leave Google reviews, Yelp reviews, Amazon reviews? You tend to get 2 types of people there, right? People that are highly satisfied, 5 stars, 10 out of 10, would purchase again. Or you get what? 1 star, no stars, if they could give it a half a star. You get people on either end, but you don't get very many people in the middle. So people in the community, probably less than 92%. People that really like the business would be motivated to respond, or they'd be motivated to lie. Do you think that's what the manager wants? I mean, he wants a good review, but do good reviews guarantee increased sales? No. If you don't have a good product, people will come there once off of a good review, but then they're not going to come back. So my guess is the manager truly does want to know what people think of the business so that they can get those repeat customers. All right, let's look down at number 2. To help reduce bias, the manager decides to survey the next 10 customers that make a purchase. What would this be? Convenience sample. Why might that be bias? They might be regular customers. Do some people go into a business and not buy anything? If they're highly satisfied with what they see, are they more likely to purchase? Yes. Customers who make purchases might not be representative of the whole population because you're not getting those people that weren't happy with what they saw. What's a method that we learned today that they could use to reduce bias? SRS, a simple random sample. Homework is not due until Monday. We're going to talk about several different types of random sampling techniques, and we're going to talk about possible problems with sampling. We've talked about 3 sampling methods so far. We're going to add to that over the next 2 days. So homework is not due until Monday because we need to get through all of these different sampling techniques before you guys can finish that up. Have a fantastic rest of your day, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.